All right, returning to the work in progress crit here. Let's see who I have. Corey, I've got you up here. Let's take a look. The one thing I hate about us recording on Zoom now is all these floating controls everywhere. All right, up now we have Corey. So tell us a little bit about your.
Now, and I'm going to show it off here. I'm still working on the text and the uh, character I'm going to show on the second page. I'm still working on.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah. And then this idea had me about to throw it in a robot and make it. This is a bunch of images you see at the start of each stage.
All right, cool. Comments, what do you guys think?
How it shows the
Yeah, so does when you're talking, is the text under each image talking about the specific image here?
It's just the article. It's not about each one.
No, this is looking really cool. I just have some minor things on here, I think. And so on your first spread, your bleed goes beyond the crop marks, which is how it should be. So make sure same thing happens back here. See how you want the background to go beyond the crop marks, so you're in the bleed there on here. Um, it's looking really great on here. Did you use text wrap on here at all?
Yes, that one's a little weird because the that character, main character has a glow effect on it.
I'll show you a trick for that. This is cool. I love him peeking through here.
That's how it kind of shows up when you first meet him.
I think that's super cool. To hell and back again, it's getting a little lost here. I think it's such a provocative statement. Maybe making it a little bit bigger would be helpful. Um, is this a quote in here? It's in the article.
Yes.
Make sure you put the quote marks in here. And what you want to do is, and you'll probably have to manipulate it a little bit. You want it to float in this space. You've got a ton of space down here and it's pretty tight up here. So I think if you just center it a little bit more in that void, that's going to be good. For text wrap, I'll show you a trick on that. Hang on here. Um, let me see if I'm able to. Don't have any of your images. Watch, it'll just be boxes. How many images are in there? Oh, they're all. So yeah, this happens when I try and do it. But luckily, what I wanted to show you is on the text wrap. So because there's a glow on her, it was a little weird. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The trick on that is just to um, get your pen tool, and you don't even have to trace this that accurately. But the key is create a shape over her. And like I said, it doesn't have to be exact because what we're going to do is make it disappear. All right, so trying to text wrap the image because it had some effects on it, it wasn't giving you exactly what you wanted. What you do is you draw this shape with the pen tool, and then this is what you text wrap. And then what you do is you just make it invisible. So instead of being filled or outlined with a color, you just make it invisible and it will give you a little bit better than of what you want to do with it. But the first spread, I think, um, let me go back here and look at it. Um, yeah, so those are just real, same thing here. See how tight this is among your on your quote? you got to give it a little bit of breathing room in here. Um, because now it's running together. So there's a, people are going to read and come down here and start reading. I always felt like I had distance both in. It's just running together. You do need to give it the little bit of breathing space in here. Um, and a couple other things. I've got one example of this here. Let's see. I mentioned, both when I worked at agencies and would review people's portfolios either for jobs or I used to do it for Art Center too. Um, those of us in the business, if I was, if we were hiring someone and I was looking at portfolios, it takes a lot of time and effort to do that, but we always had some red flags that we looked for that if we saw that would probably, be the end of the consideration. A lot of these red flags have to do with type because, and when I talk to my clients, I always ask them, what are you seeing coming out of schools that, you know, is bothering to you or whatnot? There's a lot of little type red flags. One of them is this. Let me go back a page here. Come on. There we go. Down here, see the word first down here? I was trying to zoom in on it to highlight it here. When you have a paragraph and it ends up where you end up with just one word on the last line, we call that an orphan. And when we see it, it's like, oh, this person didn't either didn't really look at the type as they were setting it or didn't understand that that's not a good thing to have. So there's what we call an orphan. Um, it's a little harder to fix when you're doing justified type. If this was flush left type, you could actually just pop another word down on the second line, and that would kind of solve the problem. If you were to do this and you can try it, it might screw up. I think you'll actually be okay. It might screw up this line of spacing, but I would at least just kick the word the down there on there. There's another thing I'm not, you kind of have it here. So this is an orphan where you have the solitary word down here. And then the other flip side of that, we have what's called a widow. And a widow is when your paragraph ends, one column, and then you get one or two lines just up here at the top. So it looks like this paragraph, again, I have to have all these controls out of the way here. Um, it looks like your paragraph comes down here and then it just, you get, these two little lines up here, and we refer to that as a widow. You can just manipulate a couple things. You can manipulate uh, the type size. You can manipulate the leading to get rid of that. Let me see if I had the type on here. Uh, so here's what you can do because I do have your type here. This is what I meant about seeing if you can just kick one more word down there. That's kind of what happens when you're doing justified type. So you kind of have to manually try and fix that on there. Or here's the little trick of the trade on here. What size is your type here? So your type is 12 point. Um, ideally maybe 11 point, but because of the font you chose, the bigger font's probably better in this case for it. But here's one of the tricks. When you find this, just to get rid of that, if I come over here and open up type and character. So the reason I always open this and don't do my type up here at the top is you get these other controls down here where you can control the leading on here. But in this case, what might be helpful is the letter spacing. And what you can do is I'm just going to take the letter spacing down ever so slightly. And um, if you take the letter spacing down just a little bit, so I took it down 4 points. To be honest with you, no one's going to notice that, and it's going to get rid of that orphan sitting down below there. Here's another thing when you're setting type, if you really want to look like a pro. on here. And I think on your text, it has a tendency to look a little bit like a wall of text in here. I would break up, are these paragraphs? So the when you want to break it up, what most people do just put the cursor there and hit the space bar. And that's absolutely fine. But if you really want to look like you know what you're doing with type, what you do is hitting the return key oftentimes gives you more space than you really need. And so what you can do is just come and select the first line of the next paragraph. And if you come over here and just put a little bit of space in there, just to give you a little breathing room, it'll look a little more sophisticated and finished if you do that. I would wait and see. Now what I did is I did give you an widow up there. But that's going to look a little bit more professional, a little bit more polished. Going back to your second page. So a couple things. If you look at how you've laid everything out, so your first page is all justified and then it becomes not justified. Was there a reason for that?
The edge, the antagonist did not look right.
Oh, up here with him. What I would probably, can you switch from one to another? Yeah, but I think what I would do is probably keep this whole page justified. And then when we come up here, you can switch it to flush left if you want to on there. Um, on this page, I think my issue with this, a couple things. You've got very hard verticals on here, creating very hard rectangles. So when I come down here, what was the reason for putting this in the box with the glow on it?
That is in the article I pulled, that is like a separate thing and it's like reviewed from like their internal.
Okay.
So I just wanted it separated.
No, and I think that's smart. But I would probably go with just a hard rectangle, and because it's one of those things, and we talked about that when uh in the lecture on Monday, where if you have one thing that's different from everything else, it stands out and it draws all your attention to it. And the fact that it's orange on black really draws attention to it, um, which is fine. That's the final rating for the game, but at the same time, you don't want to take it away from the article and what you're reading on here. Um, so I would probably just do a hard rectangle on there. And the other thing too, the bright orange. So your artwork up here is really, really colorful, but by putting something brighter down here, it's kind of making all the artwork look a little dull. So what I might do on this one is just, let's see if I have your layout here. I don't have your images. This is what happens, but this is what I need on here. Hang on. So, oh my God, I hate these mice. Let's try this. All right. Down here, I would probably get rid of that. Was it grouped with the text in here? Is that a text? Okay, it's not. What you can do is do a hard rectangle in here. And you, like you said, you still want to set it off on here, but sorry, just getting this. What I would do is not do a bright orange. What you might want to do is do something that's not quite as, your background's black. So even if you went with like a medium gray or something to set it off, and if you did that, all your artwork, the colors would really pop in it again, I think. And the only other thing in here, I mentioned this about the, when you have the quotes in here, you already have them kind of separate. Um, so here's the problem when you try and do the text wrap with these um, text boxes on here. If you look here in the text box, the type is touching up here and then it gives you a big gap down here. So when you do a text wrap on it, it's going to be unequal and it's going to be hard to do. What I would do is save a version of this where this is still all active type But then to really get that text wrap work well, what I would do, and this is what I do, come up here. And again, you want to make sure you save this so you don't have to retype it at some point. Then come up here with the type, create outlines on it. Interesting. All right, so I created outlines on this, and now you can see the bounding box around here is tight to the type. Now, if you outline the type and then you image trace that, which it's not letting me do. Oh, let's see. All right, let me see if I can do this. So now it'll give you the opportunity to text wrap it a little bit more to the type on here. Um, you can also, with text wrap, I don't know if you guys noticed, there's some options available to you. If you come here and do text wrap options, what you can do is maybe put a little bit more space in here if you want to. Give it a little bit more air around it. I think that would just look a little bit more polished. My only other comment on here is, um, and I'll leave it to you guys on here. Does it matter that the text on each panel here doesn't necessarily pertain to what's above? Is it an issue for anyone? I'll tell you what, you know what's going to really help on this? So I don't think you have to change anything, but where you do have, I think you need to break the type into paragraphs here. It's just really running straight through. I think if I got a little break here and a little break here and here, then it's going to chunk it up and not look like this text belongs on that panel. This text belongs on another panel here. And the very last thing, I know you guys are sick of me doing this. What I would do is on your type, I would definitely come up here and grab a ruler, and I'm going to put this on the baseline of the top. And I think you just want to make sure, see this one, I knew this one was sitting a little low, and this one's a little, just to really make it look polished so everything lines up on there. But I'll be honest with you, Corey, I'm really kind of nitpicking at this point. You did a really nice job, and I appreciate you doing two spreads on here. So really good. I think you're in really good shape here. So let's give Corey a hand. Let's see here. All right, Melvin, this is you. All right.
Supposed to be about like F1, basically just like explain what it is and like how it works, like with the races and everything. Well, thinking about adding like something else, right? Just not be that space.
I like the real subtle checkered flag in the background. That's kind of nice on here. Um, Comments, what do you guys think?
Like the red lines under
Or,
the font kind of goes with all of and the check background.
yeah, checkered background is nice. Let's talk images on here, first of all. Um, did you spherize that, or is that
I made it like that.
is that to play off the sphere in Vegas?
Oh yeah. So I did it like that.
Yeah, you know what? You guys got to learn how to lie. So absolutely, that's what I was thinking about. Of course, everybody knows that. Um, a couple things here, and I'll open this up and hopefully I'll be able to show you. What is Formula One? If I go cross campus and show this to the English instructors without a question mark on it, what do you think they're going to say? Yeah, you almost have to put a question mark in,
Oh.
but there are ways you can do it where, it's not so obvious, and I'll show you some options on that. My big thing on here too is you've got two big images. And if we're being honest, they're essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
So in magazine articles, you have limited real estate to work with, and you want to make sure that visually you're telling as wide a story as you can. So that's why like repeating photos that are essentially the same. Um, I would see if I can find a different image. Um, are you talking about any particular race in here?
No.
Okay. Were you going to do a second page on here?
Yeah.
Okay. You will, or you were going to?
No.
Um, and I make this offer available to everyone. So far, like no one's taken me up on it. But didn't we go and check and see if there was anything Formula One you could pull off of iStock?
Check. But I just feel like since this work, just because I feel like a lot of the images that it shows,
Are the same?
yeah, but they're all copies, so it doesn't show big names.
But here's the thing. First of all, for a school project, you can still use them. I'll show you what happens though. I mean, even something, are you talking about any particular race in here?
Maybe just the Las Vegas one, and another time.
Because here's a shot of Vegas. And so you can use these. All you have to do is give me this number and I can get it for you. I mean, just something to kind of show more scope instead of just a front end of the cars racing. I will point this out because I will get a nasty phone call. See how it says for editorial use only? What that means is this can only be used like for a real magazine article or something. Um, and so I'll get a really nasty call from iStock saying, "What are you using this for?" Don't worry, I get it all the time. And I just say, "I'm a college professor. It's for a school project. No one's making money on it." Um, so yeah, don't worry about that. But even getting, something that's going to expand the scope on here, either showing the track, showing close-ups on cars. I think especially if you're going to do 2 pages, even getting something like this, the tires that would give you like some texture on the page, or something here where you can see the Formula One logo on here. But give me the numbers and I can get them for you, and I'll handle the heat on them. That is not Formula One. I mean, even something like that's pretty cool. So there are ways that you can kind of imply the drivers are in here without, oh yeah, do Lego. Um, don't be afraid to do that. But for your uh, article here, these are essentially the same shot. So you want something that's going to give it a little bit more depth, a little bit more range on here. The only other thing, so let me see if I can open you up here. It's similar to what I just told Corey. Is that a Adobe font or is that
No, I got that from Vaughn.
okay? That's fine. Here's what I would do on the type. First of all, regarding do you put a question mark? Oh, look, it loaded it in all by itself. Um, how can you put you could do the literal um question mark, or you could do something, and I know I'm going to contradict myself here. You could just turn this more and make it a graphic element, but make the let's see. Even if you did something like that and then just turned it into an outline or something, might be a way to get the question mark in there. You're making it more a graphic thing. Yes, I know I keep telling everyone don't outline type. This is technically not type, it's more a graphic element in here. The only other thing I would do on here is, and I don't have the font, but when you have this sitting evenly spaced from the previous, this kind of subhead goes with the type down here, right? So what I would do is close it up like that. I just got rid of that return. and then select the top line of the paragraph. And again, if you open the character panel, here's where you can add the leading in. And so if you do a hard return there, it makes it look like the type doesn't belong to this article or this paragraph. If you just put a little bit more leading here, so, you know, seems to be 21 is the one that works here. So this now makes it look like this type goes with this paragraph, that this, if you do the same thing here, that this type goes with that paragraph. And I think that's going to help you on there. Um, so yeah, I think just see how many different ways you can discuss, Formula One on here. The other thing too, you don't have to treat this gutter as if it's radioactive on here. So if I get that, you can theoretically just take this and cross over as long as you're only hitting the tire here and not the actual cockpit. That could make something a little bit more useful on there.
But yeah, at first, like, I actually cropped it and like extended it throughout the whole page, and I just kept the small portion up at the bottom with the type and everything. Then,
Yeah.
feel about it.
Um, the other thing too, I mean, for something where speed is kind of, implied in here, there might be ways that you can, I'm going to try something here. Let me see if I can do this. Let's see. So I'm just taking your stuff into Photoshop here and let me flatten this. So I just pasted your photo in here. A couple things you could do to really play with the idea of speed here. I'm going to crop this. And again, this is one of these ideas I'm throwing out there, and I don't really know if it's going to work or not. I'll let you know. Let's see here. So, anything you can do to kind of imply speed on here. And I'll show you a trick here. All right, let's see if we can questionably ethically extend this a little bit here. So, and this all goes back to, what I told you guys about don't feeling like you have to use the photos the way you found them. Oh, that was stupid. I had the wrong layer selected. Hang on. Yeah, it just generated more white background. Let's see. Um, and I'll tell you, I use some of these tricks. Some of these tricks are good if you have really poor quality photography. Let's see if it will generate anything useful here. And to be honest with you, it doesn't even have to be useful. Look at that. It added all new racers in there. Could you ethically use that?
I think so.
You think so?
Better is I can extend it, spread.
Yeah, but here I'll show you the trick. I'm going to select these two images and I'm going to create a merged version of them here. So how could you use this ethically? I'm going to come up here under filter and go to blur, but I'm going to go to motion blur and I'm going to have these cars blur quite a bit. So I have a blurry layer and then there's my fake layer and then my real image. And what you can do is with my blurry image here, I'm going to add a layer mask on here. And then, so the AI addition in here, I'm going to keep it blurry so that ethically we're not, trying to show a race that never happened on here. But now what I'm going to do is, so your original image is still there and it's sharp, and then we can blur it into, maybe blur it a little bit less or more on here. But that could be an interesting solution because you have the photos so boxy here, you're not getting that sense of speed and motion and everything. And I think you kind of understood that because I thought it was smart that you added the red stripes in here to kind of get that horizontal speed motion thing going. So I would just kind of lean into that. And again, anything you kind of have you kind of place it in Las Vegas with the sphere here. I think that's really kind of clever. And I think just see if you can find some other images. Don't worry about copyright on them at this point, because a lot of these brands like Formula One are super Nazis about their copyright, their trademark, but the general rule of thumb is if you are not making money on it, and obviously on a school project you're not, no one's going to really come after you. If you took these images and tried to make a poster and sold them, yeah, they would come after you. But for a school project, I think you're in good shape on here. So yeah, it's a really good start. I'd love to see you finish 2 more pages on it. So, all right, let's give Melvin a hand here. Brad, we saw Xavier, we saw Buka. So this is the last one I had. And this one's a little different. She's doing a whole publication here. So let me show you how this works. So this is going to be her cover. Okay.
Doing the whole thing.
Yeah. So let me show you something because you're doing it in InDesign, right? All right. I mean, the cover looks fantastic, but I just hope you haven't taken on more than you can get done. Do you think you can get it done? For for showing this, one of the things when you said I found out I used to have you guys go into InDesign at the end here, and I just found it was too much. If you haven't had a lot of Adobe training to not only throw Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign at you, but then to try and expect you to get projects done in it. So that's why technically for a magazine project like this, you would do it in InDesign. And it's a little bit different setup. But you'll notice as I go through here, you have individual pages. And what I think you want to do is, come on. If you use InDesign, when you set this up, and you can go back to your file and do this. If you want to do a magazine like she's doing, how many pages is it? So the way you would set it up, the actual page is going to be 8.5 by 11 pages here. Here's what you need to go back and change on your file. Make sure facing pages is selected. And when you do that, when the document you'll get will have the cover like we saw in yours, but then we'll be able to see the spreads of the magazine in here. So that would be those pages, and finally the back cover. So the way you have it set up, it's 8 individual pages, but I think for the assignment, you'll want to show it in the spreads on here. All right. All right. I mean, I love the cover, so I'm really, again, I want to make sure everyone has enough time to finish this, but this is looking really nice. All right. So whatever you bring to the cover here, see if you can bring it to the whole interior and the spread in there. Does that sound good? All right. That is all I had as of let's see, Andy, we did already. So yeah, so you have some tips. Again, everything here is subjective, so you don't necessarily have to take what I said at face value. Um, I would hope you would at least explore it on here. You have a little over an hour to work here in class. I'll make sure we have more work time on Monday for you to finish this up. Although on Monday, I am going to give you your final assignment, which is the event poster. So if you haven't started thinking about an event, could be something small like a local farmer's market. Or if you want to go big, I've had students do Burning Man. I've had them do all these music festivals. We just had Coachella, the Olympics, the Super Bowl. There's a lot of different events that you can choose to do. I'll leave it up to you. But just be ready with an idea of what you want to do when we meet again on Monday. All right?
Does it have to be like a physical event? Because an idea I was thinking of maybe doing it based on like an anniversary or something.
An anniversary of what?
Well, I was thinking like YouTube became 20 recently or something
What became 20?
like that. YouTube.
Yeah, if you want to make up a fake celebration for YouTube, you can do that. Um, yeah, no, I've had students do, fictional events in the Harry Potter universe or the Star Wars universe. As long as you turn it into a real event and it's not just an announcement that YouTube is 20. So maybe create an event at the YouTube Theater, um, which is down by, I believe, SoFi Stadium. But yeah, just make up an event, make up a date for it. All right, thanks everyone.